I was sitting in a big event centre the other day and it had the most beautiful foyer. It was filled with plants and sculptures and artworks. It was really unique and done on such an epic scale. It was so beautiful. I was watching the people and their reactions as they left their conferences and came through the doors for a coffee. I found it very interesting to see the difference between the men's reaction and the women's reactions. Not everyone, but the biggest majority of men gave it a quick glance with a raised eyebrow or two and then moved on to get their coffees and to get on with the day pretty quickly. But the women did something different. They lingered a little bit and they took photos to show their friends. So to be clear, this is not going to be a battle of the sexes conversation, okay? You will never hear that on this channel. I think the whole he versus she thing is counterproductive and quite moronic, actually. But I was thinking about what happened that day, and I don't think that it's accidental. I think most men have been given a very narrow permission set when it comes to beauty, or enjoying beauty, I should say. I'm a painter. I've spent years thinking about beauty, which sounds a bit indulgent, until you realize how few people are actually doing it in a serious way. But this video isn't really about painting. It's about something I've noticed in men specifically. It's kind of like an awkward arm's length relationship that they have with beauty, and I think it's costing them more than they realize. Let me give you some philosophical backing first, because I think it reframes everything really well. Around 400 BC, the Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle believed that people are naturally drawn to three things: truth, goodness, and beauty. They called these the transcendentals and saw them as fundamental to life itself. In other words, we seek truth because we want to understand the world, goodness because we value what is right, and beauty because we are drawn to what inspires and moves us. In other words, you don't need to justify the pursuit of any of these three things because they are valuable in and of themselves. Full stop. Now, here's the interesting part. Christian philosophers and theologians later grounded these transcendentals in the nature of God himself. Not that God merely has truth, goodness, and beauty, but that God is those things. All truth is God's truth, all goodness is God's goodness, and all beauty is God's beauty. So when you pursue beauty, genuinely, seriously as a practice, you are pursuing something that participates in the nature of God. That's not a small claim. I talk about this more in my video called What is Beauty, so go check that out if you're interested. So why do so many men find it easy to justify the pursuit of truth and goodness, but they struggle to justify the pursuit of beauty? Think about it. A man who dedicates himself to knowledge, to science, to understanding how the world works, that's really respected and admired. The pursuit of truth needs no defense. A man who dedicates himself to ethics and goodness and to knowing right from wrong, same thing. Nobody questions that. But a man who says, okay, I want to make my space really beautiful, I want to surround myself with art, I want to spend time in the presence of beautiful things, that man gets a certain look, like a hesitation, an unspoken really? And I think there are two reasons for this. The first is that for most men, beauty has been collapsed into two narrow categories. Eros, which is tied to passionate love, and the beauty of vast natural spaces, like mountains and oceans and the night sky. The kind of beauty that feels appropriately epic and therefore acceptably masculine. Everything else, like the beauty of a painting or a well-designed room, or music and poetry and craft, it gets filed under not really for them, unless they're an artist. The second reason is more interesting. Men have been given genuine cautionary tales about beauty's power to deceive. Think about the story of Samson and Delilah, where she tricked Samson into giving away his strength by her beauty and cunning. How about the sirens in Greek mythology, the femme fatale? Beauty used as a weapon or as a trap, as a way to obscure the absence of truth and goodness. And those cautionary tales aren't wrong. Beauty can be weaponized, but here's the thing. When we recognize that something is beautiful, we do so because we recognize that it participates in the eternal form of beauty. The problem isn't beauty itself. The problem is beauty disconnected from its rightful place next to the good and the true. Beauty alone, severed from those other two transcendentals, becomes really dangerous. But beauty in its full form, beauty as a part of that trio, is one of the most noble things a human being can pursue. Delilah wasn't an argument against beauty. She was an argument against beauty without truth and goodness. So here's what I want to say. Plato didn't just say beauty was nice. He said the failure to pursue beauty was a moral failing. Not an aesthetic failing, a moral one. Because beauty, truth, and goodness are not three separate pursuits. They are three aspects of the same reality. You cannot pursue one without the others. A man who pursues truth and goodness but abandons beauty does not have the whole package that life has to offer. He's left a third of reality on the table. So, what does it actually look like to pursue beauty as a man? It doesn't have to be grand. It starts with attention. Just take a minute to notice things around you. That tree, that light, that piece of music that did something unexpected to you last week. Just let those things simmer a little bit instead of rushing away or moving on too quickly. Think about what exactly it is you like about it and why. That's the beginning of the practice, and it costs nothing except a moment of stillness, which I'd argue most of us could do with more of anyway. If beauty is a transcendental, if it is genuinely as important as truth and goodness, then neglecting it is not neutral. We are losing out on something. It's that same mechanism we talked about in the last video. Beauty leads to awe, and awe shrinks the self. A smaller self is a more generous, more ethical, and makes a more loving human being. I'm not saying pick up another thing to carry. We all seem to have full plates already. I'm saying there's something hiding behind the beautiful things in your life. So don't miss out on it. That's it. That's the whole invitation. Just slow down a little bit. In the next video, I want to get into the other side of this conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about ugliness. And it turns out ugliness is just as interesting as beauty, maybe even more so. Anyway, I'll see you there.